Hi people, it's me, the cloud from the north. So with Blackwing Lair coming soon, people have started prepping. That includes such things as reading or watching guides, stacking consumables, getting the right gear, as well as grabbing flasks. By the way, check description for timestamps. Flasks and the receipts for them were very cheap during Molten Core. The reason for this was that you simply didn't need flasks in Molten Core. You still had good margins to work with even without them. However, Blackwing Lair is harder than Molten Core, and no one knows how it's gonna be tuned. So, just in case you need the edge a flask provide, a lot of people are grabbing them already. Prices are likely gonna keep increasing until the raid opens at least. So, how do you take advantage of this flask rush? And first of all, if you have the receipt for one of the flasks and can craft it, you could craft it for a fee. You could also try and farm the materials for the flask. So first off, let's look at the common denominator for all flasks, the Black Lotus. The flower can only spawn in one of a set number of spawn points in a zone. Whenever the flower is picked, a new one will spawn within a fixed time interval. So, if you manage to find one and pick it, you now roughly know where the next one will spawn. If the stars are aligned, you might be a shaman or a hunter. By using Eyes of the Eagle or Farsight, you can scout through almost the entire zone without moving. You can now check the possible spawn points in just a few minutes, instead of having to run through the entire zone. Once you've located it, the flower that is, rush to it and pick it. And repeat. The spawn timer is between 45 to 75 minutes. So that means you will have to farm a maximum of 30 minutes per hour to find the flower. However, you're obviously not gonna be the only one doing this. The Black Lotus can spawn in one of the following zones, or actually in all of the following zones. Winter Spring, Eastern Plagelands, Silithus and Burning Steppes. So there are approximately 4 Black Lotuses available per hour, and pretty much the entire server will fight over them. That's a lot of competition. I recommend looking at Classic Wowhead to see exactly where the spawns are located for each zone. Unless you're going hardcore in your Black Lotus farm, I would advise you to not attempt at all. You're probably gonna be fighting hundreds of other players for these very, very rare flowers. And unless you win, you get nothing. Well, almost nothing. There are of course still other flowers and mining nodes you can find, but I think you get the idea. There are a number of other materials that are needed as well. Dreamfoil, Icecap, Mountain Silversage, Gromsblood and Stonescale oil. As you can see on this neat diagram I made, Dreamfoil is used for both Flask of Supreme Power and Distilled Wisdom. Luckily, both Dreamfoil and Gromsblood can be found when doing Darmal East jump runs. As that is an instanced farm, you can farm it without being annoyed by other players. You can also find some ghost mushrooms in there as well, which sell for about $1 a piece on my server. An idea might be to quickly do 5 Darmal East jump runs where you only run around and pick the herbs, and then have someone else reset the dungeon for you while you're logged out. Once you're dungeon capped, just farm in the open world until you can do another 5 dungeons. I haven't tried it, but it sounded good in my head at least. You could of course do full jump runs with someone else for the rich forum veins as well. Or you could solo the entire jump run if you're a ranged class. There's a link in the description to a guide on how to solo Darmal East as an elemental shaman. Note that you don't have to kill the final boss to get access to the rich forum veins, but more of that in the guide on Darmal East jump runs. Check the description. Dreamfoil can also be found in the following zones: Ashara, Eastern Plagelands, Ungoro Crater, Burning Steppes, Western Plagelands, Silithus and Felwood. Ashara is probably the best one for Dreamfoil. Check where the spawns are on Classic WoW, or check somewhere else. As for the Silversage and Icecap, the best place is probably Winterspring. You can find both there, you know. Mountain Silversages tend to be found on the hills along the edges of zones, and on the hills not along the edge of the zone. Besides Winterspring, you can find them in Eastern Plagelands, Ashara, Unguro, Burning Steppes, Silithus, Fellwood, and Western Plagelands. There are the most spawns in Winterspring, however. As for Icecap, they can only be found in Winterspring. Both Icecap and Silversage are somewhat rare, often costing up to a gold per flower. As for Gromsblood, they can only be found where there are a bunch of demons, meaning Blasted Lands, Desolus, and 2 tiny spawns in Ashenvale. Desolus can be a quite good place to farm them, as you can farm the grave moss at the Kodo Cemetery and then run down to the demons and farm the Gromsblood. However, I have a feeling that just farming them inside Darmal East together with Dreamfoil is probably a quite good farm. Maybe park your main there and then level an alt while waiting for the dungeon timer to reset. The Stonescale oil needs Stonescale eels, and those fishes aren't worth crap. Don't fish them. Don't do it. If you do it anyway, Stranglethorn is a good place to farm them. Ashara is also a very good place to fish them. You, however, need a very high fishing skill for certain parts of Ashara. The Bay of Storms supposedly requires 425 skill in order to not have a chance of losing a fish. 2 other places to farm them is the eastern coast of Tanaris and the western coast of Feralas. By the way, the only way to obtain 425 in fishing is to be Horde and to get the fishing pole from the quest in Hinterlands. And combine that with a Gyro Dynamic Fishing Attractor, I don't know what it's called. The lure that gives you plus 100 in skill. It's crafted by engineers. The Booty Buy fishing event currently isn't in game and no one seems to know when it will be added. As for getting the receipts for the flasks, it's likely not gonna be worth it. Flask of the Titan drops in UBRS, Flask of Supreme Power in Scholomance, and Flask of Distilled Wisdom in Stratholme Live, all with a drop rate around 3%. Now, let's say that you're taking advantage of this trend. When should you sell your stuff if you want to maximize profit? The safer bet is probably to just sell everything as soon as you can. But the prices will likely continue to increase as we get closer to the opening of the raid. However, meanwhile demand goes up, it is likely that more people will have jumped onto this train, and so there will be more stuff available as well. I would recommend selling things roughly a week before the release of the raid, but I'm no WoW Classic auction economist. You do as you please. Personally, I'm not gonna bother taking part in this rush. I don't need gold, so I'm not gonna farm it actively. However, that just means there's one less competitor for you to worry about. Also, I have no reason keeping my best tips from you. I don't really care. So, like if you enjoyed and subscribe to learn more things I probably shouldn't tell you.